Hansen. We got a great show for you today. First of all, though, I want to thank Promar. Without Promar's backing, without them being a sponsor, we can't do these shows every single day. Promar stepped up to the plate 5 years ago when I first started doing this. They've been a sponsor of the show ever since. They take really good care of my guides and myself and all of our followers and members. You're over at promarahi.com. There's the QR code up on the screen. We'll show you a little video a little bit during the show to show you some of the cool products. We got a great video of the new Akara jig catching a nice cabezon on Don Hansen Day. You guys can go look at that on all our social media. Today's show is going to be epic, gang. You guys are not going to believe all the cool stories you're going to get to hear from these two guys today. We got, as usual, we got my co-host Michael Fowlkes with us on Tuesdays, but we got the fishmonger himself, Captain Tommy Gomes, joining us. I want to show you guys an intro video real quick here, and then we'll get this show started so you know what we're talking about today. I made this real quick with some of the old footage that Michael has on the tribute to Tuna and the inside sport fishing. Check this intro video out. And we'll get this show rolling here. Hopefully, Michael and Tommy like this.
Michael Fowlkes, the history of sport fishing, and Tommy Gomes is going to give us the insight on the San Diego tuna fleet. At one time, the San Diego tuna fleet fed the world. Pretty much that's what their motto was. We feed the world. What's happened to our San Diego tuna fleet? Where did it go? What happened? These are all questions I have that hopefully my good friend Tommy Gomes can answer today. This is what it was like back in the day, working the docks in San Diego. The San Diego tuna fleet actually fed the world, just like Tommy's going to talk about today. I want you to kick back, relax, and listen to Michael Fowlkes and Tommy Gomes talk about the history of sport fishing, the history of the tuna fishery, and what happened and why it doesn't exist today. This was and is the history of sport fishing in California.
Okay, guys, let's get this show going. Michael,
Yes,
Tommy,
sir. Good morning.
How'd I do?
Good. That was a good cut,
You
David.
did good.
Yeah.
Did good, Grasshopper.
I tell you what, to have you two guys, I'm like so nervous. I redid that thing like 15 times. So hopefully I did you right, Tommy.
Absolutely, man. It's great. Great to be here. Thanks a lot. Michael, again, congratulations on the history of sport fishing. I know it took you a while to get it out there, but, what a great series of films.
Oh, thanks, Tommy. It's really been an honor working on it for the last 5 years. It just it took on a life of its own. It really felt like a story that just was meant to be told. And every time I get to a point where I thought we were there, a whole nother, like you were just saying earlier about, you've got 100 hours of historical footage from the 20s and 30s. It's never been seen. So, when I get opportunities like that to take a look at something, that history of sport fishing just keeps growing. It's like a living entity.
Yeah. And every day down at the docks, there's new history being made.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Congrats.
Well, yeah, thank you. And congratulations to you and your family for everything you guys have done for not only San Diego and the commercial tuna fleet, but for the world, and the way you guys have really pushed the envelopes on how to harvest tuna with responsibilities.
It's been fun, man. I mean, the fleet's a shadow of what it once was, and nobody comes home to San Diego anymore. But there's a lot of families that are out there still here in San Diego, and again, huge props for what you did, man, in preserving the history of sport fishing, because when we're gone, those stories go away, and it's important for everybody to remember the history and tradition of what San Diego was built on. And sport fishing was a massive part of not only the tourism industry, but getting people jobs. And, how many times did you start out? You hear stories of guys that started out as a pinhead and have run boats and owned boats, and now they're retired.
You're talking to one.
Yeah, it's important to preserve that stuff. So again, kudos for what you do, man.
Well, thank you. And And, you know, you talk about the sport fishing industry in San Diego being so affluent in the 1940s and 50s. But prior to that, the 20s, 30s, 40s, that was all you guys. That was all commercial tuna. There was virtually no sport fishing in San Diego prior to the war, Second World War.
Yeah, and you know, when the sport fishing kicked off and the pioneers of the fleet, you know, people were going out and it was substance fishing. They were fishing to put food in the freezers and to feed their neighbor, not just their neighbor, but the neighborhood.
Yep.
Everybody. And back in the day, you know, we were eating barracuda and we were eating bonita and we were eating mackerel. And, you know, a lot of people, I don't eat bait. Well, if the big fish eats the small fish, you should eat the small fish too, because they're really delicious. And
bonita's about as good as it gets if it's taken care of.
Oh yeah, I smoked some yesterday.
Did you? I remember as a kid, we used to have like neighborhood fish fries. Yeah. You know, on a Saturday afternoon, I'd come home from a half-day trip and there'd be 20 or 30 people hanging out at my parents' house, and we just have a giant fish fry.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so cool.
You know, there was a time not long ago that every garage in Point Loma had a kitchen in it. Every garage in Tunaville had a kitchen in it. And that was because they didn't cook the fish in the house. They cooked the fish out in the garage.
Yep.
And you could always tell when the boats were home, but back then there was always a boat home because they were always cooking and canning tuna and
smoking it. Yep.
Making wine.
Yes, sir. I love it.
I'm so happy to have the two of you guys on here because Tommy Gomes, you've opened up the world to see what's going on with the U.S. commercial fishing fleet and what's going on and how the United States of America really isn't taking care of their fishermen. It's really sad that people didn't know this until your TV show came out. And then Michael Fowlkes with the history of sport fishing showing how, I don't even know if you saw this part of the docuseries yet, Tommy, or not, but the Declaration of Independence was written. Listen to this. Go ahead, Michael, real quick, and then we're going to get going with Tommy and his TV show.
Oh, about the Constitution?
Yeah, this is crazy, Tommy. I don't know if you know this.
Tommy, I don't know if you know it either, but the most interesting fact that I uncovered, or that Tammy and I uncovered, she did most of the research, thank God, bless her heart. But in 1732, they formed this little fishing club on the shores of the Schuylkill River in a place that's now known as Philadelphia. And so in 1732, a bunch of fly fishermen got together and decided they needed a club so they could meet without getting hung and talk about declaring their independence from Great Britain. Guys like, you might have heard of them, Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, yeah.
George Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the guys that started the Schuylkill Fishing Club in 1732, and that was where they met and hung out as they figured out how to declare their independence. And they wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. That's the picture of the clubhouse right there. And it still stands today.
Wow.
It's the longest running, continually operative, they call it a social club, in the English-speaking language. And that was formed by our forefathers. And that's where the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States was written by fishermen.
Isn't that amazing, Tommy?
I need to say that at the next Port Commission meeting.
Yeah, let them know. Let them know. Yes, sir.
No, it's crazy. When I realized that, I called Michael up right away and I said, "Are you bullshitting me? This is real. This is incredible." And that makes me so
proud,
filled with joy and proudness to know that we, in a little tiny way, the three of us are just keeping this thing alive, and this story is going out and being told. Now Tommy Gomes has this information because there's nobody on the planet that likes to talk more than I do, except maybe Tommy Gomes.
Look at you using AI.
That's Elliot, baby.
That's Mr. Elliot.
Oh my God, look at that. It's right there. Yes. We got to put that on the show. We'll give you credit. We'll pump up your series of the history of sport fishing. Absolutely. This is cool, man.
Yeah,
it's rad.
It's
Who knew?
It's and you know, those guys would have been hung for treason had they been caught. They were risking their lives to get.
I don't know if they'd have been hung for that, but they certainly would have been hung for being a fly fisherman.
Oh, that's all they had back in the day, man. They didn't have bass reels until later.
Right.
Everybody was fishing with these fly rods.
Oh my God, that's unreal.
Yeah.
Even Tommy Gomes learned something today.
Yeah, right. Even old dogs learn new tricks, man. That is just
Yep. It's insanity to
Pretty
think.
cool, huh?
Yeah, my mind is blown.
So cool.
And like Elliot just said, it could be the oldest angling club in the world.
Yeah.
And then to think what's going on in the world right now, it's so apropos to be talking about this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I don't even have the vocabulary to talk about that. That just blew me away.
that hasn't been done in a long time, Tommy.
That's insane. I got to fire that off to the producers and get that in there. Yeah.
Perfect.
And
feel free to use any of the clips too from the series if you guys want to drop them on your show.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'll let Scott know.
Okay.
Yeah, that little paragraph there that you just put up is something that I am definitely going to say at the next Port Commission meeting.
Yeah, Elliot's got our text message. He'll just text it over to you or whatever. But
okay.
Yeah. And what Tommy's talking about, his TV show, is the Fishmonger Gang, which is actually, I'm going to probably not do it justice, but it's actually allowing the people of the United States to see where the food comes from. And Tommy, you have one of the greatest sayings about seafood. I love that. And Michael quoted you yesterday.
Was it good seafood's not cheap and cheap seafood's not good?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and people ask me, they go, well, what do you mean by that? And I go, well, if your seafood's got more frequent flyer miles on it than your American Airlines credit card, you're not doing us fishermen any good.
Right.
And it's a shame because the fishermen in our country are losing their waterfront property. And I get it. You know, it's all about real estate. It's all about maximizing your water acreage and things like that. And, you know, the average age of a commercial fisherman nowadays is well past 65. And they're getting the same price that they were getting on a lot of species. They're getting the same price that they were getting 20, 25, 30 years ago. And meanwhile, unfortunately, more and more imported or IUU, illegal, unregulated, unreported seafood is coming into our country at super cheap prices. And we're hurting the American fishermen and women of the American fishing industry. And it's like the farmers and the ranchers, you know, they're all under attack as well. And so it's sad to see. And if you want to go to like the whole other end of the whole conspiracy type thing, I mean, control the food, you control everybody else. And commercial fishing isn't for everybody. The men and women of the fleet, they go commercial fishing because they don't want to have to deal with all this and it's on the beach. And when you think about it, you know, when you go commercial fishing, you only got to really worry about three things: fire, sinking, and catching fish. Right?
Right.
When you're on the beach, nowadays you got everything going on. And our guys and gals are just getting regulated right out. And it's sad because, you know, we're not the bad guys. But like every industry, there are some bad apples. But for the most part, nobody wants to kill the last bluefin or harvest the last lobster or anything like that. And so I'm very blessed and very grateful to Scott Laceth and Jim Torres and the crew on the Fishmonger show that allows us to go out and tell the story.
We're our commercial fishing industry here in the United States is the most heavily regulated commercial fishing industry in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we have set the bar. And if the rest of the world would just take our lead our planet will be fine. It's like you said earlier, it's unsustainable commercial methods that are being used primarily by third world countries that don't care about sustainability. The only thing they care about is profit. They are literally raping our oceans.
Yeah, and it's sad because the bycatch on some fisheries
90%
it's massive. And we're killing generations of fish that are just getting dumped over the side
as garbage.
Yeah. It was in the mid 70s when we ran across the first time I'd seen it. I was just a kid, and I think I was like 14, 15 years old. And we ran across this giant line of, when we saw them in the binoculars, we thought they were birds, and we turned the boat and went that direction, and they would pop up, and it was these hard, dense foam corks. And when we got closer, we saw that, I mean, it went for miles and miles and miles. And we slid up on it and started pulling it up. We got a gaff on it and started pulling it up. And it was this giant monofilament drift net that was like 30 miles long because we followed it to the other end and we had no idea what was going on. It was like 4 days later where we saw the boat and we pulled up, not too close, but close enough to it where they were hauling the net in on the side of the boat and picking fish in the hull and inside the boat, and it was going right back out the other side of the boat. They were pulling, picking, and setting at the same time, and it was just a drift net. But we saw what was going on, and they were supposed to be fishing squid, yet they were intercepting our salmon. There was salmon going on, there was albacore going on, yet they had this high seas permit to fish squid. Well, squid wasn't anything. They weren't targeting squid at all.
No.
And that got me thinking, and it always sat in the back of my head throughout my career on tuna boats. And then when I saw what was really going on after leaving the tuna fleet and working on the beach in a wholesale seafood environment, and I saw what was going on, I realized that on a global scale, what we're doing as a human species isn't sustainable. And that was before the $20 word of sustainability. You know, now everybody, is it sustainable? Right. Stop with that. You know, nothing's sustainable anymore except for taxes. They're going to be around forever. So, you know, it was nice to be able to get an opportunity with Scott Laysath, who we all know from, you know, not only Fred Hall, but The Sporting Chef, Dead Meat, and he's been on TV forever. But it was nice to be able to get a shot at telling the story. And I had one shot, bro. It was one shot, you know. I had no idea that we would be all the way to season 5. And
congratulations, by the way. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks. And so we did, you know, and we went out and with Scott's guidance and Jim and Bill and the rest of the boys there and Kyle and all the guys that are on the film crew. These guys are producing great films and great TV shows. And here you got a guy that, you know, when it comes to television, I'm green as a pool table and twice as square, man. I'm like the anchovy in the corner of the bait tank, not going anywhere. Right. Yeah. And these guys were like, just do you, just be you. And yep. I'm like, okay. So that's where we're at today. Very grateful.
Absolutely. You do a phenomenal job on that show too. And when you talk about those high seas drift nets, those are just walls of death.
Yeah.
Massive walls of death. And I know at one point there was enough high seas drift nets and long lines in the Pacific deployed at the same time. If they tied them end to end, they could circumnavigate the entire planet twice.
Yeah.
I mean, walls of death that go around the world twice that never stop killing.
No, look, I get it. You know, we got to feed the world.
Sure.
Nobody's out there. We'll go back before the tracking devices and everything on the boats. Nobody was tracking. There was no, it was the high seas. It was the Wild West. And now they're starting to clamp down a little bit more. We've got, vessel locator and things like that. And if you go on the apps and you go and you pull up Galapagos, and you'll see outside, you'll see the yellow ring where nobody's supposed to be inside, and you'll see all the foreign fishing boats right on that ring. And it brings more awareness to the general public of what's really going on the high seas as far as seafood goes. And we need fresh fish. We need to support the American industry. And it's tough to get fresh seafood into middle America. I mean, Michael, you could call a guy right now and say, hey, I have some friends coming over for dinner. Can you get me a chunk of bluefin? Piece of cake.
Right.
But if you lived in Podunk, Iowa, there's nobody to call.
No.
So we get it. And we all grew up on the water, and, we're all a bunch of pinheads, and, we ran around and we looked up at guys like Bill Poole and Ray Sobiak and Don Hansen. And it was, when you saw those guys, you're like, oh my God, there's Don Hansen, oh, he's the captain of a boat, and I'd like to work for him. And there was that being proud to be a commercial fisherman and being proud to work on the sport boats, especially when, come on, the trip on the Royal Polaris going to Clipperton the first time. I mean, come on, really? You guys are going where? Clipperton. And those guys that got to work on that trip, when they came back, they had a different strut in their walk. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That
was groundbreaking.
And when you talk about sport fishing, it's the memories and speaking. I mean, I know this is true for you guys as well. You could have a 200-pound bluefin on the boat, and you can slide up to a kelp patty, and some 12-year-old kid bangs a 15-pound yellowtail. That is what fishing's all about. Not that big tuna. It's just another big tuna. But this is a yellowtail that kid is going to remember for the rest of his life, and he's going to be chasing it forever.
Yep.
It's like you take somebody out in your little bay boat, and you're fishing an area, and they come up with a 12 to 15-pound halibut. They never caught a halibut before, and you're thinking, poor bastard, he's going to be chasing that fish the rest of his life, because they just don't bite like that for people.
Nope. Fish in the bush. Chasing the weeds.
So, Michael, how long did it take you to put this whole history of sport fishing together? I mean, I know you and I talked years and years ago about it. Are you good? Are you happy? Are you good with what you got?
Yes, sir. I mean, it can always be better. I think we're always learning. In fact, yesterday I added a little 30-second sequence from
of course you did.
from Sir David Attenborough's new film called Ocean.
Yeah.
Which he produced with the BBC.
Yeah.
And he's 99 years old, and he said this was the most important film he's ever made in his life.
Yeah.
And he talks about the bottom trawlers and the devastation that technique of harvest has done to our oceans and our seabeds. And I just couldn't help but put that 30 seconds back into it. So here it is, completely signed, sealed, delivered, ready to go to market, and I'm still tweaking on it.
Of
so
course.
I don't think it'll ever be over, but to answer your question, I'm honored and privileged, and I'm absolutely proud to have been chosen to get to make this film, to be able to be in a position where I was able to accumulate the footage and to talk to enough people and have enough support to be able to put something like this together. Because I really believe that it's a timeless piece that's going to be around for generations.
Well, you definitely paid your dues. I mean, you came out with Tribute to Tuna decades ago. Can you believe that?
I know.
Can you believe it's been decades?
No, I feel so old.
Oh.
We're
old.
I know.
When that came out, though, and I talked to Michael about this last year when he joined me on the show to be my co-host on Tuesdays. When that came out, wasn't that a wow moment for us in the industry? Us, We're
Yeah,
like,
you
wow.
know, when it came out, I got a copy, and all my uncles and my dad, they were still alive, and they were pioneers of the fleet, you know. And I sat them down. I didn't tell them anything. I sat them down. I got the popcorn out. I had the beer, right? Cooked them a big old pasta dinner. And you got something I want you guys to see. And oh, jeez, I'm gonna start crying.
Yeah.
You're getting me all choked up.
And we watched that film, and those guys they were crying, and they remembered guys that were there. And there was one part where my dad went, "That's Zaba," and Uncle Joe was like, "Hey, that is Zaba. Look at Zaba." And these guys all grew up together. They went to San Diego High, Uni. They went to Point Loma. They all played football together, and it was just really, really cool. So the question that everybody is probably wanting to ask is, like, I mean, it's an encyclopedia, bro. When's the next one coming out? You're not done.
Oh, that touches my heart, Tommy, to hear you say that about those guys, because it was men like Herb Gale.
Yeah.
That, you know, and back in the 70s when I tried to make this, the tuna safe nets had just been introduced.
Yeah.
And the last thing they wanted to do was some white boy down there talking about making a movie about, you know, catching tuna.
Yeah.
When they were fighting the world about these tuna safe, you know, dolphin safe nets.
Yeah, the porpoise. Yeah.
I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get my hands on that footage. And Herb was the one that finally said, "All right, Michael, come in here." Kind of took me under his wing, and he said, "Here's some old cans, but you got to do us right. You got to do us right." And I promised him that I would make you guys proud. And
yeah, it was. I mean, anybody who's ever pitched a chovy or a sardine had a copy of that.
Sure.
You know, and it was super cool. And like I said, man, it was very cool to see the old timers, you know, watch that. And I was a young upcoming kid still. And it was cool, man. And so thanks for those special memories in my life.
Well, thank you. You've just enriched mine, Tommy.
We're two old guys here.
Yeah, sitting on a porch.
And that's what I tell Michael every week when I bring you on here. Next week, we're hopefully going to have the greatest jig chucker in the world on here. You know, Tommy, we talked about it. Michael and I talked about it. Danny Wade, hopefully he's going to get to be with us on here. But when I tell Michael I'm bringing Tommy Gomes, or I'm bringing Roy Rose, or I'm bringing Tim Ekstrom, every one of you guys has a Michael Fowlkes story growing up. We all grew up watching Michael's films, and we all were hoping that we were going to be on the show once.
Oh, yeah. That was getting on one of Michael's films was bigger than getting on the cover of Western Outdoor News. Because back in the day, you knew you were in it when you made the cover.
You had the cover of Rolling Stone.
Yeah, man. See, those were such fun times growing up. And you know, I was down at the sport docks, and I kept hearing this motor going. I couldn't figure out what the heck was that thing. And it dawned on me. I turned around and I looked, and they have motorized dock carts going up the ramp. And I was like, what the hell was that thing when I was a kid down here?
It would take three of us
or more.
Yeah, and one guy pulling at the end there if it was low tide.
Yeah.
We couldn't get those albacore and tuna up the ramp. It would kill us.
Yeah. It was
the guy in the front of the cart fell down. We ran right over him.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny. I looked at that and I just like, what's going on here? You know,
motorized dock carts. Hey, Tommy, talk to me for a second. I mean, you mentioned earlier about sustainability and how important it is that, you know, we all eat. Everyone eats every day, and we need protein. And what about aquaculture? Have you had any experiences?
Oh boy.
Here we go.
So look, aquaculture is here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Okay.
We have to feed the masses of this planet. Okay. And there's big money involved in aquaculture. A lot of companies are doing it right. Unfortunately, more companies are doing it for the money,
right,
and not doing it right. There's a small company in New Zealand called Mount Cook Alpine Salmon, where they took a glacier-fed river, moved it, they built the farm, and they put the river back so the fish are swimming with the current of the river. And this fish is insanely beautiful. And then you have some salmon that are not so great that are being fed beef, chicken, pork byproducts that, it's not. And then the whole tilapia thing, it's not that great, man, the way that they're grown. I mean, there's some farms that, and I had mentioned it on the show, but there's some farms that they have these ponds, and in the pond are the shrimp. On top of the shrimp are tilapia. And then they have a cage built around the farm on top where they have the pigs, and they feed the pigs.
That's disgusting.
They feed the pigs. You picking me up?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, you're on this side. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello.
Right.
And so sustainable farmed fishing, it's here. Now, we talk about, oysters, clams, and mussels, percebes, barnacles, things like that, where they eat them all over the world, but they don't eat them here. They're considered, bait, or you use them to catch another fish, things like that. So here in America, we need to change our eating habits, and we need to think outside the box when it comes to seafood. Back in the day, fishing rock cod trips, you'd always have the one group of people that would want them filleted, and then you had another group that would say, "Oh no, just gill and gut them," and then you had another group that said, "No, don't touch them." And the ones that wanted them gilled and gutted, they took them home and barbecued them or deep fried them. The ones that said, "Don't touch them," they went home and they utilized that whole fish. See, so if we utilize the whole pig and we utilize the whole cow, why are we not utilizing the whole fish? So at Tunaville Market, we have restaurants now that are putting whole vermilion collars on the menu. And yeah, for me at the production table with Renee, it's a pain in the butt, but I cut every collar out because I know that we can sell them. And if we can sell them, the fishermen get paid more for their fish. And it's a really strange thing because we have 5 families. We have Mitch Conniff, who has Mitch's Seafood, Brian and Viola Kirihara, they have the American Angler, Randy Trusant, who's a legend in his own,
and Timmy.
And we got John Conniff, Mitch's brother, and we got me, and we got Cameron and his wife. They're all invested into this thing. So it's a bunch of commercial fisher families that are involved in this, and that allows us to pay 2 to 3 times more for local fish than the fishermen would be getting, say, down the block or up the coast, because we're able to utilize the fish
in its entirety.
Yeah, in its entirety. I have one kid who, he's way outside the box. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Josh Nealon. He's a chef that is just phenomenal with a blade and what he does with seafood. He's just way out there. So we have a kid here in San Diego who's very talented, and he takes the stomach sacks of the rock cod and yellowtail, turns them inside out, scrubs them, turns them right side in again, and packs them with ground up fish and spices and bakes them in the oven with white wine and a little bit of crumbled Italian breadcrumbs on top to give it a little crunch. And he slices it up, and it's just delicious, utilizing the whole fish, I love it. Fish doesn't come out of the ocean in a box. It shouldn't be served on your plate that way.
Those yellowtail collars are some of the best fish I've ever eaten.
Yeah, every collar.
It's like just mouth-watering.
Yeah, you're an adult. Play with your food. You won't get in trouble. I promise you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you and I talked about when I came up there and made all those videos. And yes, there's a lot of people wondering, is that the guy that you made the video that's going bananas on Instagram on? Yes, that's Tommy Gomes and I. We did that bone marrow video. I know everybody else has done it 100 million times, but Tommy and I got 74 million views on Instagram, gang. So whenever you're popping off, oh, your friend got 1 million views. Tommy and I got 74 million views. Yes, that's him. There's a lot of people asking because they recognize your voice.
It's funny because, look, man, it's all been done before. And Michael, you know this as well as Dave and a lot of the other old timers. Everything comes back around full circle, right? I mean, if this albacore shows up again down here, the only guys that are going to be able to catch us are us old guys. Because we're the only ones that still got Squidder Juniors and Junior 500s all newelled out.
Little 501s, they can throw an anchovy with a 196.7 or something.
Yeah, and you're going to have that one guy in the corner with a split shot and an anchovy that's been dried out, flopping in the wind because he's going to fish the slide.
And he's going to catch one.
And he's going to get them. And so, it's all been done. We did an OPA video years ago that's like 120 million views or something. And what that did was it allowed the general public to see a fish that they normally wouldn't see. And when we broke it down and showed the public just 7 of the 10 primary cuts, they were like, oh, I want to eat that. And we were able to take that 65 cents a pound fish and get the fisherman $2.50. See, that's where I'm in trouble because as a fish buyer, I'm supposed to buy low, sell high. But I fished, I still fish. I'm a fish buyer, business owner with a ungodly understanding amount of investors and partners that they get it. The fishermen come first. And so we just got to educate people, educate, promote, and have fun when it comes to seafood and get people to understand that, all rockfish are different. Every one of them is different. They're not the same. And
everyone tastes different.
They all taste different. And there's no such thing as a red snapper off California. Stop. Just stop already. The marketing ploy of that. It's like, it's a vermilion, bro.
Well, Tommy, we fished San Clemente Island years ago and for calico bass. And it was just 2 of us on our little skiff. And we spent the night there. So right before we got ready to quit fishing, we kept a half a dozen calico bass that we were catching off the kelp. And we filleted them all out. Same location, same time, same date. Half the fish tasted delicious and the other half tasted horrible.
Huh.
And I don't know if with what they've been feeding on or what it was, but it was the same fish out of the same spot, same size, and the taste difference was unbelievable out of the same species based on what they fed on.
Yeah, I think the ones that tasted horrible, I think those were the ones your buddy caught.
Tommy, let's blow the whole world's mind right now. We got a lot of people watching. Let's talk about a fish that there's no such thing as, but everybody wants at the restaurant when they go there. Let's talk about that fish for a minute. It's called the Patagonian.
Oh yeah. So the Patagonian toothfish, that's another illegal, under-regulated piece of fish. There are some great companies out there that are bringing in fish that are MSC certified. But again, you can tell by the price if it's an illegal fish or not. But the Patagonian toothfish, known as Chilean sea bass.
Sea bass, never been one in the planet Earth, right?
Never. But again, it was a marketing ploy,
Well, Tommy, let me interrupt you for a second. I apologize, truly. Yeah. I apologize for interrupting you. But when you talk about a marketing ploy and a fish that didn't exist being named Chilean sea bass and now becoming a very popular fish.
Yeah.
You mentioned Podunk, Iowa, but in Michigan, they have a species now that they're calling a highly invasive species known as the Asian carp.
Yeah.
And they want to slaughter these fish. They just
Yeah.
want to destroy them because they do, but they're not bottom feeders. They eat plankton, so
Yeah.
they're eating good material. And they did a festival back there. I haven't ever personally had a chance to eat one, but they put the fish out and gave it to people as samples, and people couldn't believe how good it was until they heard it was an Asian carp, and they went, "Oh, there's." But
yeah, see,
blindfolded, they loved it.
yeah,
So here's a fish that they're trying to extinguish. That if they shift their mentality, it could provide a tremendous amount of protein, especially for, like, you know, it's treasured around the world except for in the United States as a delicacy.
It could provide protein
Millions.
for
Millions.
I mean,
Yeah.
name
Millions.
Name it. And it's the same thing with in the Chesapeake Bay, there's a blue channel catfish not supposed to be there. So I go out with the film crew, and we go out on these Carolina skiffs. And this guy asked me, he goes, "Hey, have you ever scooped bait before?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I can. Yeah, once or twice I've done some brailing." And so we go out, and Federal Fish and Wildlife is in one boat. There's another guy with a generator. I had no idea. Scott didn't tell me. He said, "Don't worry, you're going to have fun. You're going catfishing." I'm like, fun and catfishing. So we go out, and the boat with the generator starts making these little circles, and he throws his cable over, and he zaps the water, and it didn't damage any other species, but all these catfish come up, and they're stunned for like 45 seconds to maybe a minute. And all the boats come in, and we're running around, and we're scooping up all this blue channel catfish. And it was a blast. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was super fun. And I'm thinking, holy cow, these guys they're doing it right. They're feeding people an undesirable species. And it's only undesirable until you market it in the proper manner. And then it becomes desirable.
Exactly.
And the Asian carp there's a way to make it work to where instead of running out there on your boat with football helmets on and nets getting smacked in the face by 10, 12, 15-pound fish doing 30 miles an hour, that cannot be fun. There's ways that we can harvest that fish and make it into something that could subsidize, if not completely eliminate, the imported, unregulated seafood.
And it's right here in our country. Massive amounts of those fish.
But see, I don't think people want to know where their food comes from anymore.
Because most of it's poison.
Yeah, that's a whole nother program there, man. I'll tell you. You know,
we are what we eat, and we are what we eat.
Seafood is the only protein that we don't manufacture. Think about that. We manufacture our beef, our chickens, our cows. And fishing, you got to lay it on the line, and you got to go out there and get it. I mean, you want to be big boy stuff and put your big boy pants on? Go fish outside the line 2,000 miles and see how it is, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Wild West.
Different.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for everything, gang. When you go to the fish market, when you come down to Tunaville Market and Grocery in San Diego, and most of the time Tommy Gomes is there, and he takes the time to explain to you what you're about to purchase and the difference. And why is this shrimp at your market $12 a pound, and I can go over to the box store and I can get it for $6 a pound? And then when Tommy explains it to you and you find out where that shrimp for $6 a pound came from, it's going to blow your mind. That's the really fun thing about watching your show, Tommy. When you watch Tommy Gomes' show, Michael, when you get into the fishmonger and you get to start to understand, you just like what you just did, blowing Tommy's mind where the Declaration of Independence was signed, you're going to sit there and go, oh, I thought I knew.
Well, it's like you're saying, Tommy, the shrimp are underneath the tilapia, and they're being fed by the pig.
Yeah. And there's more and more of that goes on. But we have to also remember, the human side of it, the humanity side of it is that, these are products that are coming out of a third world country that they're relied on this product to be sold to the US. Otherwise, they have no lifestyle. They have nothing going on. And a lot of the big farming operations are connected in one way or another to some of the big food conglomerates, if you will. And it's just the way it is. If you were to start raising shrimp here in San Diego and it was a great product, you'd have companies coming in and wanting to buy out
your whole operation,
your company. Whether they wanted to continue or they wanted to shut it down so nobody knew about it. And then, that brings us up to the whole other thing is, algae. What about the kelp? What about that stuff? Why are we not eating more kelp? They eat it everywhere in the world except for here in America. Now, look, I'm not saying we got to grind up a bunch and make a new kelp burger or something like that, but it's delicious. It's healthy for you. There are companies out there, Barnacle Foods. They're doing a lot of great things with kelp and making salsas and jellies and jams and dips. And there are companies out there, but these are small artisanal companies with a bunch of young people that have this vision that they want to make this work. And it's tough. It's tough for them. I talked to them on the show, and we go through their whole system of what they're doing, and their product is good, but getting people to eat it is, it's a difficult thing. Yet, and I love them. Don't get me wrong. Hot dogs. We'll eat hot dogs, but we won't eat this over here that's super healthy.
Right, all day long.
It's all marketing.
Hello, Costco.
I was in Ensenada a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, delivering a boat, and they have one. I hadn't seen one in a very long time, and this brings me to a question I have, Tommy. Remember when you and I and Michael were kids? There were kelp cutters working every kelp forest in California.
Yep.
Where did they go, and why aren't we allowed to harvest kelp in California anymore? Why?
Right there. Right there, man, right in my backyard. I mean, they were there. And I'm not sure why. I mean, I know Kelco still has a facility office down here in San Diego. And I know like the Kelstar and the Kelco, they went to Ensenada and harvested out of there. But honestly, there's not a lot of kelp left in Point Loma. It's not what it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It was really nice.
Well, we don't want to talk about that. We know why. You know why. I know why. We don't. Can't keep using the Pacific Ocean as a trash can, folks, and thinking nothing bad's going to happen.
Well, everything from the big cities, we have all these massive concrete rivers. And especially here in San Diego, we have a problem. And we have a problem at the border with the Tijuana River. And that is a massive, massive problem where, there was a YMCA surf camp in Imperial Beach. So, oh my gosh, we're from Wisconsin. We're going to San Diego for a week, and Junior's going to go to the surf camp. Yeah, man, but you can't go in the water. Beach is closed. Why? Is there sharks? No. Polluted. And then you got the San Diego River, up by Mission Bay. So now we have these two rivers flowing that are just polluted, and the kelp's dying, and it's not what it used to be. It wasn't that long ago where I could go and look out on my back deck, and I could see foamers, and I could see breezers, and I could see, I knew when the white sea bass were showing up, because you could see them popping in the kelp, and little breezers of yellowtail, and the bonita would come in, and we'd sit there on the back deck going, why aren't we out there? The boat's in the driveway. Yeah, by the time you get out there, they'll be gone.
Construction work in Laguna Beach up on the top of the world, and you could look out there and see these massive schools of bonita and barracuda popping up. And I'm thinking, why am I pounding a nail when these fish are going off?
Yeah. Yeah. But see, those are things that we need to remind the youngsters and stuff like this bluefin and stuff. I got in it with the Pedro purseaners, and back in the day, we got those 700 to 900, 1,200 pounders. And, it's like a 30-year cycle, this bluefin, and I tell these youngsters, I go, you boys better write this stuff down because these are your good old days right now. These are your good old days. You guys are going to be able to see it maybe 2 more times. But right now, these are your good old days. You're the young kids. You're up and coming. You just got your captain's license. You're still working the deck. These are your good old days. And they're just now starting to fish. Well, a couple of years now, they started fishing the bluefin at night when guys like Don Hansen and all those older boys that we all grew up idolizing, they'd put the lights out at night and fish barracuda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fish barracuda, cut all that stuff up, gill it, gut it, whatever it is, make your 10 cents each time the knife, whether you filleted it or whatever, it was 10 cents.
My dad brailed greenback mackerel when he was a young up and coming captain. They would go out at night and braille mackerel, greenback mackerel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the guys, they fished, and it was a different time for fishermen back then. The things were, you were very well respected. You were looked up to. You were a commercial fisherman. And what I like about it now, even to this day, is, we still got the sidewalk pelicans. We still got the old timers coming down to the shop, and they see us offloading rockfish and stuff, and they know, I'll just hang out. Tommy will be up here. I'll have a bucket with them. And, I'll walk by and drop a bucket off of 6, 7 nice big reds or vermilions and bank perch and stuff and tell them thank you. Thanks guys for coming down. And that's what, that's what your dad was doing, Dave. He was brailing that mackerel and people would come down to the boat and, most of the time they migrated here from the old country, and if you gave them a bucket of mackerel, they were ecstatic. And you could bet your butt that at Christmas time you got a platter of homemade cookies, or once in a while when they made a Portuguese sweetbread or a loaf of Italian sourdough, you got it and it was still warm. And that was a big deal, man. Was like wait a minute, I just traded you a couple of fish and you gave me a fresh baked loaf of bread. It's a piece of bread. Yeah. But it was made with their hands. It was made with their heart, out of the tradition and history of what fishing in general is all
chills,
about.
Tommy.
It's just the way it is, man. And today, you look at what's going on the grand scale of, they want to tear down our docks. They want to put in new shops. They want to put in, just turn it into like a seaport village, ports of call type thing. And that's cool and all, but where are the commercial fishermen going to go? See? And if you want to bring in a crowd of people, then put the fleet in one central location where people can go down and see things coming off of the boat.
Impressive.
Yeah, it used to be like that in Pedro. It used to be like that here in San Diego. And in the last 5 years, we've been to 57 ports. 57 ports. And I'm hearing the same thing every time we go somewhere. They want to push us upriver, or they want to move us down here. And, because waterfront property, one, they don't make it anymore. It's not being made. And two, it ain't cheap. So, we're going through that here in San Diego where they want to redo the docks and everything for the fishermen. Totally cool. We don't have enough commercial fishermen to fill those docks. So we need to make them mixed use to offset that price, because the fishermen should not have to pay the same price as an 85-foot Choi Lee sport fishing yacht. The commercial fishermen that come and go each day that are bringing food to our city, they deserve and they need to have a break on their slip fees. And it's amazing that some fishermen don't want the mixed use, but they don't want a price increase either. So the hands are tied by the port, because the port's trying to do everything they can to help the commercial fishermen. And unfortunately, there's a lot of commercial fishermen that aren't out there trying to help themselves. And it saddens me to say that, and I'm probably going to get beat up over that. But you know what? I'll be here tomorrow too.
But you're absolutely right, and that's what I've tried to tell everybody on this show is, if we just start to work together, things get so much easier. But it's us against them all the time. No one understands that if we just try to work together, and something that Michael and I worked really hard on, and you were helping me a lot with that sand bass closure that was going on, and how they wanted to take our sand bass away, and you would call me up and just laugh and hang up because you're like, "Welcome to the club, Hanson." Check.
Yeah, and you know what? So they sit there and they say, "Look, you know what? It's the best readily available science." Yeah, given to you by fishermen.
Yeah.
The best readily available science is given to you by fishermen, and then you put it in textbook form in your own words to confuse everybody. And it's not hard to confuse a commercial fisherman or a sport fisherman, let me tell you. And you're going to talk about a biomass of sand bass that 30 miles down the coast on the other side of the border are being gill netted.
Slaughtered.
Of course there's a big portion of the biomass missing. You know, the what was it?
Yep.
Huntington Flats
just would go off.
Yeah, same thing down here. The IB Imperial Beach Flats. That fish is not migrating up here in the masses that it was, because it's being over harvested down below.
And it can't make it past that wall of poo.
The wall of death.
The wall of poo.
It can't. Okay, but those guys got to make a living down there too, man. You know, and when you think about it, those pongueros, oh, those are some of the toughest seamen out there. You know, so what do, man? The guys are trying to make a living for their family, you know, and is it legal? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But because we're north of that, we're going to get the blunt of it because there's less coming through.
Totally.
And what the sport fishing community needs to understand is that the commercial fishermen are with you, and the sport fishing community needs to be with the commercial fishermen, because when it boils down to it, we're all trying to get the same thing, back out on the water to make a living. And if they keep picking us off because one's a low-hanging fruit, then they're just going to go to the next one. We saw it during the South Coast study regions of the MPA. You know, but we're going to give you this area. I don't want to fish the sewer pipe outfall. Why did you take all our hard bottom? You know, and so we overcome and we adapt, and then they say, "Oh, we're going to move the MPAs in 5 years. We'll move them up." Nobody's moved anything. They've never done any of that stuff. They just want more. So follow the money. And I mean that all the way around. And every organization that's out there, follow the money. See where it's really ending up. Because it might be ending up someplace that you might not agree with.
New $9 million house has a piece of the pie.
No.
Yeah. That's right up there with the bullet train to Barstow. I know. I'm jumping on that. I want to go to Barstow.
50-foot ride for $40 billion.
I want to go to Barstow and tip cows.
But something that was really cool that happened a month and a half ago was when Donald Trump opened up that ocean, and I called you up right away and asked you, "Tommy, is this good for us?" before I go spouting off, and you're like, yeah, he opened up the ocean to the fishermen. Yeah, it's a good thing. For the first time ever, we saw a president that's willing to work with the people that are trying to make a living out on the water. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and without getting
Right.
deep into politics, because I just don't. The Pacific Princess was the boat, the photo that he was holding up, and DeRosa was standing right next to him. This is a family that's from San Diego. This is a family that has a massive history in the city of San Diego in the commercial tuna fishing industry, who have a gorgeous boat, who are pioneers of the industry. And at one time, San Diego had something like 296 boats. 296 U.S. flag vessels
That's
were here in
amazing.
San Diego. We got 5 boats left in the entire world that are flying an American flag, purse seining, tuna, and skipjack. 5.
Can you guys hear what he's saying? Because
5.
when these guys, Tommy, explain to everybody when that very rare occasion when that yellowfin makes it across the border and you see the guys from Pedro, the squid fishermen, go out there and actually try to catch it. They're not even affecting it because they're not really getting them, but they don't have anything left to fish for. So they go out there and they try. But kind of explain to people, because I've had this conversation till I'm blue in the face. Oh, they're wiping them out. Oh my God, gang. It's not like that. Tommy, can you kind of help everybody that's listening just to understand? I hear them on the back deck of the sport boat. Oh, they're wiping out our tuna that finally made it across the border.
No, they're not. They're not wiping it out. They can only get, so much and the market collapses. You're only going to get, if you brought in 20 ton, which isn't a lot of fish, it's really not. If you brought in 20 ton of tuna to San Pedro, you'd flood the market. Whereas before, you could bring in 5,000 ton a week and it wasn't enough. There's no canneries. Ralston, Purina, AJ Hines, Checkerboard Square, Bumblebee, Starkiss, Top Wave, they're gone. There's no more. So they can only catch enough to supply the fresh fish market. And the guys are not going to go out there and catch tuna for the freezer and get paid $1.35 a pound in the round whole. They're just not going to do it. It's not worth the insurance, the damage to the net, the wear and tear of the vessel. And what happens if somebody gets hurt? It's not like it used to be where, you brought in 1,200 tons of fish, you made some coin because you had a $3 million helicopter sitting on top of your boat. You were rocking and rolling. It's not like that. So, and what Pedro fleet, we don't really have the mackerel snappers anymore like we used to. Pedro had a huge fleet, and now everybody's converted to squid. All the small little purse seiners are gone. A lot of the wooden boats have disappeared, and the same thing happened, down here to San Diego to their tuna fleet as well. And the San Diego commercial guys, they used to be able to go left when they left the harbor. Oh yeah, we're going to go down to Ippolito and fish white sea bass, or we're going to go down to Abriojos, or we're going to go all the way down to Turtle Bay, Mag Bay, and fish swordfish. And not anymore. You got to be outside that 200-mile limit. So everything's getting a little tighter, and the price of seafood's going up, except to the fishermen. Fuel's going up, everything's going up, except for the price of fish.
One thing I wanted everyone to understand, though, Tommy, is my dad flew around the world when he was still alive, helping set the limits for the take of the tuna for the United States fleet. We're allowed X amount of fish. That's it. That's all we're allowed of the pie. Let's just pretend like it's a giant pumpkin pie. We get a little piece of the pie, gang. Our guys, if that fish, I just want everyone to understand, if that fish does slip across the border, and some of our commercial, now these are U.S. citizens, so just calm down. If some of our fishermen are allowed to go catch this tuna, they only get a tiny piece of the pie, gang. The rest of the world's eating the pie. And we're very rarely even getting our piece to eat of the pie when we do. So, like my dad used to say, you guys need to calm down. This is our pie. These are our people. These are our citizens of the United States of America. These are our fishermen, which there aren't very, like Tommy said it 100 times today on the show. There's not very many of them. So when you see the boats out there, when you're out there on the sport boat fishing tuna and you see a purse seiner in America fishing, you should be proud. You should put your hand over your heart. You should say the pledge of allegiance. You should be very, very happy that we're getting a little piece of the pie.
Yeah. Our boys get a chance to
Because
work.
they're not affecting the population in any way, shape, or form, you guys. I just want you to understand that. And Tommy says it so eloquently. I don't have an eloquent bone in my body, but
You got one.
the pie is the pie. Period. That's what my dad used to try to tell everybody at those meetings. My dad knew how to play with you guys, Tommy, and with the sport fishermen. He was the very best at it. And he knew the pie is the pie, gang. There's so much pie, and that's it. And this piece of the pie is for the United States of America. So when you see us out getting some pie, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth.
The thing is about that pie is this isn't a Costco pumpkin pie. Okay. This is a Sara Lee blueberry pie. We don't get a lot of that slice. But speaking of bluefin, so, because I got to mention this. Next month, I'm going to film on the East Coast, and I am going to harpoon bluefin. Yeah.
My buddy Cubby, who's watching the show.
Are you guys not excited for me? Oh, you guys probably hate me right now. You're like, oh,
not at all. I thought that was a cool little show I saw the other day on Discovery. They were showing the tuna harpooners. And Cubby, he's watching the show right now. He's super excited to see the two of you. And he was saying he really liked watching it, but no, it's not his thing of fishing with the rod and reel. But to see those fish on the surface swimming and the guy harpooning them, I mean, you know they're not making any money doing it. You know, with the pool.
Yeah, they make a little bit, you know, and that was another thing, you know, about some of the reality TV and stuff. You know, very rarely are you going to get $20 a pound for a bluefin. It's just rare. You know, the market prices fluctuate. But like the deep set buoy gear fish, you know, the swordfish here, you know, the fishermen deserve to get a good, decent price for that fish because it's absolutely beautiful. Can you catch enough? No. Are you going to feed anybody? Not really, because even though you got 10 buoys out, you might get one fish, and that's not going to sustain a market in Southern California. And it certainly isn't going to be able, we're not going to be able to put, you know, 50 fish, H&G them and put them in boxes and ship them around the country so restaurants can enjoy a local harvested California swordfish. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the guys talking about I'm sorry, I was just reading about the harpooning. There's a guy, he saw a boat with the plank on the bow. Yeah, there's harpoon swordfish going on here in Southern California, but it's few and far between nowadays. There's just no money in it because
those boys at Bear Flag, I mean, they're cooning them, man. They are in it. They're having fun, you know. And Carl, you know, Dave, you know Carl. I mean, he's up in the plane, and those guys. You know, I interviewed Tom Green on the show, which was an honor for me because he used to be our spotter plane back in the day, and this, you know, the stories that we could share with each other. It was pretty cool, but. Yeah, Bear Flag, they're sticking them, man. They're doing it. You know, they're having fun up there and getting some fish. Nathan and his boys are definitely in the game. That's a different body of water than it is down here. You know, that whole Channel Island Canyon area up there has always produced swordfish over the years, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. The one thing that I do find upsetting is the harvesting of pups You know, a pup is anything under 100 pounds. Then you got a marker, anything over 100. Then you got a double marker and a triple marker. But when you see swordfish coming off these trucks from other parts of the world, it's head off, tail off, and they're 60 pounds, and you're just
killing
like,
the babies.
why are you doing that? You know? And because restaurants want it, portions are smaller, prices are going up. And, you know, we at Tunaville Market, we offer a program to where I don't care if you buy fish from us or not. I mean, I wish you did, but bring me your staff. Allow me to train them on utilization of a whole fish, how to break down each different species of fish, how to portion it out to maximize your yield and your margin. And we're getting a group of young chefs that come in and are learning wide open on what to do with fish instead of just breading it or deep frying it, you know, and it's great to see. It really is. And the best part about that is even if they don't buy from me at that moment, when they leave that restaurant and they go to their own restaurant, they come back and buy. And that's where it's all at. You know, we're just investing in today's future and the culinary future, and we're investing in the world of seafood and utilizing the whole fish. And that's where sustainable seafood comes
Tommy,
from.
is there anything that we could do as sport fishermen to take care of our catch as individuals? Any tips?
Well, I mean, gone are the gunny sacks. You know, bleed them, take care of them. Try not to let them beat themselves up on the deck. Look, I know it's a wide open bite and you want to get back in the water and you kind of kick them over towards the bait tank and hope somebody throws a number on it.
Fish than a dozen.
Yep. Just take a minute. And, you know, a lot of times it's all about finding that head deckhand and go, hey, man, here's an extra 20 or an extra 50 or whatever. I don't want a whole lot of fish. But if I do catch one, I need it taken care of in the proper manner. Okay, let's chill it down. Let's gill it, gut it. If it's a tuna or something like that, you know, you want to make sure it doesn't get beat up and bruised. If it's a 60 to 80 pound fish, instead of pulling it up and dragging it over the rail, go ahead and throw another gaff in the tail section and kind of just bring it up and over. I mean, these are young kids. They can do it. Handle your catch, take care of your catch. And, you know, it's like this, Michael. You can go to Ruth Chris for a steak, or you could go to Sizzler for a steak. It's the same cow,
quite.
Right?
Not quite.
Got it. You want the Ruth Chris steak. Yeah.
And we've come a long ways compared to where the three of us grew up, like Tommy said, with the gunny sack fish. And
Luckily, if they splash a little water on it by the end of the day.
Do you remember? I remember.
Story.
I remember when Steve Giffen came out with the water sprayer around the bait tank onto the gunny sacks, and he ran it. And of course, the back deck was wet, and that was before everybody had extra tufts, you know. And people were like, "Oh, this water! Can you turn this water off?" I'm like, bro, you're in the middle of the ocean. What do you want? You know. Yeah, it sure did beat running around with a 5-gallon bucket pouring water over your fish to cool them down. And then you had to rinse out the gunny sacks because you sold them
25 cents a piece.
Man, if you took care of the gunny sacks and you got a little extra side money from that, that was cool. Or what about wrapping a customer's dikes with tuna cord?
Yeah, what happened to that?
Something simple. Hey man, because you're bored and you're dragging jigs for albacore or whatever, and you go, hey man, can I wrap your dikes for you? Yeah, please. And you'd sit there and put a nice little custom wrap on them and everything, you know.
I treasured my tuna wraps.
Yeah, man, that was cool
I was working as a deckhand in San Diego way back in the day, and we caught a big albacore in the morning on the boat line, probably maybe a 35-pound albacore. Everything was averaging 20 pounds. That albacore won the jackpot for 3 straight days. and the third day, somebody finally said, that fish looks like it's 100 years old. And we said, oh, we caught it first thing this morning before
anybody got up.
That was our side money. That was our side money.
Oh yeah, you're talking to a couple of criminals right here.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're not telling us nothing we don't already know. That jackpot, if it walked off the boat back when Tommy and I worked on the boat, we were pissed.
Oh yeah.
What did we do wrong today? How did we not get the God damn it, Tommy?
Yeah, how did we not get that jackpot? What happened there, boys?
What the hell? You too tired? That jackpot.
3 days in a row, that fish won the jackpot.
Oh. It's so funny the things that we did and the fun that we had back in the day. And then can we just take a moment to talk about the boat burger?
Because I just went out on the Clemente the other day for Don Hanson Day. Go ahead. Talk about the boat burger. I had one. It was insane.
There is no better place on the planet. I don't care how many Michelin stars you got or how much Wagyu A5 beef you're grinding up, or there is nothing better than that frozen Smart and Final greasy burger on any
grill on any sport fishing boat.
And you could never have, seriously, you could never have a culinary challenge for the best boat burger. You couldn't do it. Because there could never be a winner.
Delicious. Yep.
Every one of them. We did a show and I brought a couple of my buddies out and Sonny, my manager, who's a doll. I mean, she's perfect. And we went out fishing on the Mission Bell and we had a boat burger and we talked about it on camera. And my buddy was like, this is probably the best burger I ever had. I'm like, you never had a boat burger before, bro? They're the same on all the boats. They're just the best. You know, we can never figure that out.
And we would take that stuff, the exact same stuff home.
It wouldn't taste anywhere near the same. No.
Not even close. The exact same hockey puck
you
burger.
could everything.
You could get everything off of the boat, including the cook, bring them to your house. Wouldn't work.
Something about the grill.
Burger.
Now, Tommy, you own a fish market. Explain to me this, because I didn't get to ask this the last couple of times you've been on the show, and this is just baffling to me. My dad talked about this when he was still alive, and I read articles still. And Michael has a little section on the history of sport fishing, the feather merchants, the barracuda fishermen. They sold barracuda every fish market. Every kid that's the generation before ours sold barracuda. What happened? Why you don't have them at your market? No one sells them anymore. What happened?
I remember I was getting 35 cents a pound. And when it went to 50 cents a pound, I couldn't believe it. I was getting 50 cents, Dad. And my dad chuckled, you know. He's like, I get 2,500 a ton. What? I got one fish. I got 50 cents a pound. You know, they're just not around. And you know, another legend, we always talk about the legends and stuff like that. And you know, he's still with us and he's just full of stories. And that's, you know, Laurel Saraspi, Andy's dad. Laurel was known for going right outside Mission Bay and conking the barracuda and bringing them in. You know, we just don't see them anymore. Guys just aren't fishing them. And there's no more drift net, gill net, you know, on the inside 3 miles. And so we're not seeing them. And nobody wants to go out and rod and reel a bunch of barracuda because there's no hashtag Instagram likes to it. You know, I got a trash can full of barracuda. Well, it's not a bluefin. You know? Right. You know what I paid the other day? I still bang myself on the head for this. I can't believe it. I paid $4 a pound for a 10-pound bonita.
You paid $40
for a 10-pound bonita.
For bonita.
For a 10-pound bonita. I felt bad for the guy because he didn't, he went out for a couple of days. He didn't have a
Big
whole
bonita.
bunch of fish. And I was like, it's just stuff that was out on the 9. And then the next day, another fisherman calls and he says, "Hey man, I hear you're paying $4 a pound for bonita."
Oh.
Like, no, I'm not. But I did. Oh, you should have been here yesterday, bro.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I just didn't understand. So the barracuda thing is just because of lack of fish?
No, there's no such thing as lack of fish. There's lack of fishermen.
Okay, but if you had them in your market, it's a phenomenal fish to eat, right?
Oh, it's beautiful. There was a restaurant down there that my mother was part of, and my godfather, John Tarantino's, was right there where Pizza Nova is, next to Fisherman's Landing. He was there for
Tarantino's.
40-something years. My mother and John were there. John used to make barracuda balls with his pasta sauce. Didn't know barracuda had balls, but hey, he made them, and they were delicious, And that's just another thing of utilizing an underutilized species. Again, people don't eat mackerel. Are you kidding me? You probably had one that wasn't taken care of properly, but you get those Spanish mackerel and those greenbacks, they're delicious. Swordfish eat them. You eat a swordfish, right? They must be good. If the swordfish eat the small fish, you should eat the small fish, man.
You have some of the greatest canned food I've ever eaten seafood-wise. When I came up there last time and made those videos with you, you had just got like 20 boxes of cans of those small tins. And you had mackerel, and you had bonita, and you had bonita and mustard sauce, and you had some of the most exotic food. And that was my breakfast, Tommy, if you remember. I was just sitting there gobbling.
Every day.
I was gobbling that stuff up while you were taking the inventory. We had so much fun that morning. And I'm eating mackerel, sardines, anchovies, bonita.
But wait, because we have a grocery committee with the owners and partners and all our business partners. We have a grocery committee that we just put together, and a couple of the wives are on it. So just get ready, because you're going to see a transformation of Tunaville market and grocery like no other fish market. I mean, it's going to be cool. You'll still see a little bit of me in there. I'm not going anywhere, but as far as the atmosphere goes, you're going to see a little bit of me in there, but you're going to see a whole lot of new stuff coming in that's going to be super cool, and it's exciting, and it's happening now. We're starting to make some changes, and it's going to be really nice. It's going to be fun.
Can't wait.
Oh, I'm excited. I'll be up there. We'll make some videos, introduce everybody to all the new products.
No, Dave, because every time you come in, you eat like $100 worth of stuff.
That was before breakfast.
Yeah. He says, don't worry, Tommy, I'm going to make you famous. I'm like, yeah, okay, Dave.
Oh my gosh. Not even. I come in there. I barely eat anything. I hardly even touch anything. Come on. No, really, no. That place is so fun. It's like going to Disneyland, and I always learn some new stuff. I see new fish, like a king clip. Come on. I'm like, Renee pulled that thing out of that refrigerator or freezer, whatever you guys got back there. He pulls that thing out. He throws it on the board. I'm like, what is that? Now,
what is that?
I've seen a million fish, and I'd never seen a king clip. I'm like, huh? That was it. Every time I'm in there, I see something different. The Luvar. Now I've been there 3 times. I've seen 3 different Luvars, but I never seen a Luvar before.
Hey, how about Renee, man?
Isn't that fun when I make those videos and everyone tells us how they can fillet better than Renee?
Yeah, he's there for 8, 9, 10 hours straight. Come on in, man. Bring your knife and come on in. Come on and hang at the table for 8 hours straight.
Yeah, let us know how you.
Bathroom's right there. If you got to take a break, just remember to wash your hands. We get back out here for 6, 8, 10 hours, man. And it's great I find it funny that you see the comments, on online and stuff. And what people don't realize is that we're fish fabricators. we're not just filleting fish. We're fabricating fish for somebody's meal, and we're utilizing the whole thing, and we're maximizing the yield of that product. You know, out of all the fish last year that we bought and sold, we threw away 57 pounds.
Seriously. That's nothing.
Yeah. 57 pounds of fish went into the trash. Okay. There is always something that can be done with a piece of fish. And whether you put it in the cutting bin and have it ground up into dog and cat food, or, you know, you smoke it, steam it, make a fish cake patty, make something out of it. There's always something you can do. And I found that if you ask your they're not even employees, they're partners, because they're invested in it too, because they're there working. And if you ask them, you know, hey, what do you do with this? They come up with 3 or 4 different ideas, even though you've already got 3 or 4. They come up with 3 or 4 different ideas, and we get to try them. We V-cut the rock cod so that all the bones are out of it, so the customer gets usable piece. You don't have to trim it at home. I told Renee, I go, save me all the V-cut, the rib bones and everything. Save me all that. And, what are you going to do with it? I go, I don't know yet, but save it for me. So he saved me like 10 pounds. And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, I don't know, what am I going to do with this, you know? And April walks by, and she says, fish cakes. Yeah, we'll make some fish cakes out of it. So I grind it up put the small hole wheel on the grinder, man, and I throw that in there, and we grind it up into this, not quite paste, but it was close. And we had the spices and everything, and some Dijon mustard and, you know, Grey Poupon, if you will, to make it fancy, and throw a couple eggs in there, mix it all up, made some patties and deep fried them. Boom. Renee, I need the rest of that stuff. And Renee's like,
out of your mind.
Yeah, I got to save more. And we did a bunch of fish cakes, and, you know, I put them in the case, and I sold them for like $3.50. And I know I got more labor in it than that and all that, but we did it in order to market it to see what the public would like. And they loved it. Dave, did you see the $10 tuna and crab sandwich last week?
Oh, God, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. That made me hungry just looking at it.
Yeah. I had 3/4 pound of tuna, fresh steamed tuna, on a fresh baked roll with an umami Asian coleslaw on top of it. 3/4 pound of tuna. It was like this, right? It was $10. People were like, how do you do that? I go, well, we had a bunch of extra tuna, and, you know, it wasn't for sashimi. And so I steamed it up, and this is what we got. Now we got restaurants wanting steamed tuna. We don't want to buy, we don't want it from a can. We want to buy it from you. Like, all right, cool.
Created another market. Look at that.
Yeah.
The Monchong, John Stanley saying he got introduced to it by watching our videos 3 years ago with you. The Monchong, Shayla up at John's Fish Market, she got introduced to it from you too. Now Dana Point Fish Market, or John's Fish Market selling Monchong. Guys are coming to your market asking for the Monchong. When I ate that, when you made that, we made that video 3 years ago, and I ate that Monchong. I don't know if you've ever seen one, Michael. It's the weirdest looking fish, and they live. Yeah. They're crazy fish, and oh my God,
the best way to describe that, Michael, is like, it's like a halibut and a black cod got together on Tinder
for a one-night stand.
And months later, the Monchong was born. It's simply delicious, and it's been super fun in the industry. You know, whether you're catching it or you're out on the boats or you're working in a fish market, you learn things like the uglier the fish, the better they taste. The more defense mechanisms they have, the better they taste. The ones that are more popular, they're not that great. You know, there's better fish out there that people can eat. There's better fish right there in our ocean that
taste delicious.
It's delicious, you know, and
I love
sand dabs. Oh, but they're a pain to eat.
They're a pain to clean.
Yeah, how about a chicken wing, huh? That's a pain to eat too, but we're eating them by the tons each year. But people don't want to sit there and eat a sand dab. And I guarantee people that if I give them away, when people go, what do you do with that? And you tell them and you go, here, can I give you a couple? They're like, for free? I go, absolutely. Can I give you a couple? And you give them a couple and you tell them how to do it with Krusty's pancake mix, a little bit of pepper, and put it in a bag, shake it up, and just deep fry it, nice and simple. Like they come back the next week, they go, hey, you got any of those sand dabs? Nope. You want some? I'll get them for you. And you tell them, you know, come back on Friday, I'll have a whole bunch.
One of my
and so you
favorite
get,
fish.
you get 20 people in your store that like, hey man, I'm here for the sand dabs. Cool.
The biggest swordfish that got dressed out by Bear Flag a few years back. Last fish of the season was up over 500 dressed up off the rigs there in Huntington Beach. And guess what she was full of? Full.
Sand dabs?
Full of sand dabs.
Oh, can you now just picture that?
Down there.
Picture that. So 500 pound dress was 6 1/4, probably.
Dude,
something
huge.
like that. Can you imagine that animal down there in that dirt with that sword, just raking it and coming back? And there had to be 2 or 3 of them working together.
That's so funny to think of that thing. Big old gladiator of the sea down there ripping around in the mud.
That's why their bills get all chunked up and busted. They're down there sticking stuff out of the rocks, and amazing they feed down there 2,000 feet or whatever it is.
You just never know. You never know. It's like cutting fish on a sport boat. You know, you always find stuff in the stomach, and we were at Clarion Island purse-seining down there before we got kicked out, and they put the 200-mile limit on. But we had a cow come up in the net, and we could see the leader first coming up. And when we saw the fish, I was laughing. My dad was like, what are you laughing at? I go, can you believe somebody actually thought they were going to land that thing? 417 at the cannery. 417 at the cannery is what it weighed. And then there was a guy, I'm sure you guys know John Kirkpatrick. So he had a boat. Was it the Reward, or it was one of the boats that used to fish Clarion back in the day, in the early 80s, late 70s. And he called us over. He had a yellowfin that wouldn't fit in his hatch. And we went over there in the speedboat, and I came back to the boat, and my uncle was like, what's wrong? I go, we need the skiff. He goes, what do you mean you need the skiff? Or I can't put it on the speedboat. It's too big. Well, how big is it? I go, 4+. He goes, okay. And they were the Allison home guard tuna with the big long.
That's so pretty.
We get it in the boat. We get it in the big skiff. We get it over to the boat and we pick it up. My uncle's like, oh my God. And we get it to the cannery like 30 days later. It was sitting on top of the well. We had the hatch cover on. And that fish was 428 at the cannery. 428.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, for a yellowfin tuna. Now, what's the record?
It was 386 or something for years.
No, it's over 4. It's 412, 417.
But that was back in the 70s or 80s. The biggest one ever landed then was just under 400, 376, I think. So 400 plus.
Yeah.
And you know what? I thought for sure last year, with this bluefin that popped up and came around, I thought for sure we were going to see a new world record from a skiff. I really did. You know, there was radio chatter from the airplanes and that stuff up above the Channel Islands there. And You know, when that stuff started popping off up in Oregon and Washington, bluefin all the way up there, I had guys calling down here, you know, how do you stop these fish? I'm like, not with those 4.0 Senators you're using for salmon. Not that's your biggest trolling rig.
Not going to stop those fish under any conditions.
Yeah. So it, you know, right now like I said, man, right now are the good old days for this generation of fishermen, and it's super cool to see. And it's nice to be able to go down to the docks and see, like for me, see a bunch of faces that I remember from back in the day that the passengers are still working and fishing. And because there's not a lot of the old time sport captains around, you know, they've all moved on. I mean, you got the Taft brothers down there still at H&M, but their kids are taking over. And, you know, you got Big Papa Frank Lupresti still walking around, and he's down there, meets the boat every single time the Royal comes in. And it's kind of nice to see stuff like that once in a while, you know.
You got the Timmy Ekstroms and the Randy Tressants and the Roy Roses and Brian and Kiara. I mean, you got some really, really talented men down there. That are,
yeah, and they're down there. And you know what's cool is they're approachable. Like they're approachable, you know. You can walk. You don't have to just go see them at the shows. You can go down to the docks and go, hey, that's Roy Rose. I'm gonna go talk to him. And they, you know.
Then when we grew up, you couldn't talk to the guys. You're scared of them.
I was scared. The first time I got invited up to the wheelhouse, I thought my heart was going to come out of my chest. I swear to God, I got invited up to the wheelhouse of the Royal Polaris with Frank Rusty. I was going to have a heart attack. I was so nervous. I was shaking. I just stood in the corner and shook.
Yeah, Frank wants to see you. Okay, where is he? He's in the pilot house. What? What? What did I do?
Yeah, Tommy and I, Michael, growing up on the boat, we didn't want to go up to the wheelhouse ever. Never, ever.
And then Rusty
scrub at the boat and they call your name on the PA. You're all, where do I hide? Where do I go? We know you're not coming up there to get an attaboy. They ain't calling you up there to tell you did a great job today. That never was told.
Frank called me up there and I was such a wreck. And we're on our first night out, second night out on a 16-day trip, my first 16-day trip. And so we got to talking, and I asked him, you know, what's your favorite fish, Frank? I said, you know, catching cow tuna and wow. And he goes, calico bass. And I went, what?
Yeah.
So, you know, here I am on the fantasy trip of my lifetime to catch tuna and wow, and he's talking about calico bass.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was they were larger than life.
They still are. They still are, except like you were saying, though, David, that they're accessible. These men that are captains today have realized that you can't hide out in the wheelhouse, that your customers, your passengers are your bread and butter. And you need to treat them with like family and respect. And the boats today, you get on a boat today and you actually, by the end of a long range trip, you feel like you're a part of the crew as opposed to just, you know, a paying passenger. It's just a different mentality.
Yeah, it's a different mentality now. And I mean, everything in the game has changed in sport fishing. It ain't cheap, man. The gear. Oh my God. The gear. Thank God I'm not a bass fisherman, because those guys, they got more gear than anybody.
It's like a different outfit for every hole you're playing in golf. You need a different club. You know, for bass especially.
Yeah, it really is. But the fact that you can go down to the landing and stop a skipper walking up the dock to ask him a question, or even to take a picture, you know, because back before social media, we had to wait. We had to wait for the magazines to come out. We had to wait for Western Outdoor News to come out. The big thing, and it was huge. Brett Hall show, man. It was massive.
It was a kickoff to the entire Southern California fishing season. And, you know, and Bill's taken that baton, Tommy. Has he taken it
man.
and raised that bar to a whole nother level? I mean,
It's his turn.
No one deserves it more than Bill DePriest and Scotty and his team up there. What they've done from a single Quonset hut with like 12 vendors in it that they had to beg to come in and exhibit to where it is today. I just tip my hat to those guys for doing a phenomenal job. Man. It's such a fulfilling family experience. You can spend 2 or 3 days there through the whole thing.
You have
and
to.
It's all fishing. It's not a bunch of beef jerky. You know?
Exactly. There is no room for that stuff there. There's no room. People
couldn't. Yeah, man. I was there for a couple of days and I couldn't find the giant pickle.
And for me, Michael knows, Tommy, you weren't there, but my father, that was the only place he ever saw me speak. And he came and he sat in the front row. And Michael had the big booth right there in front of the stage. And it was the roughest, hardest, you know me, I love to talk. It was the hardest time I ever had talking. Tears were streaming down my face. I came off that stage. I sat down next to him. He looked at me and he goes, how in the hell did you do that? I go, Dad, I've been doing it forever. He goes, no, how did you get up there and talk for an hour and not say the F-bomb once?
It's a good thing he didn't say, how do you get up there for an hour and talk like that and not really say anything? But see, those are the memories that I was talking about in the very beginning of sport fishing. You know, it's not the big fish. It's the kid that catches that nice yellowtail, or it's a memory like Dave just shared with us, or somebody walking up to you. And how many times has it happened, man, where somebody walks up to you and goes, hey, I remember when you helped me with this fish or that, or something like that. And it takes you a minute and then you kind of remember, and you're creating memories for people that last a lifetime for them. And it's important to understand that fishing ain't about catching.
It's the life lessons that we can learn from the end of a line that you can't learn on an electronic device.
Yes. I've been fishing with the same guys every Sunday for over 20 years. When I leave Shelter Island, my boat takes a left and I boogie all the way back into the South Bay. Way back there. 68 bonefish and 1 drift.
And they said there were no bonefish on the West Coast. No,
there's not. There's nothing back there at all. Don't ever go fish the South Bay because you're going to get stuck in a mud flat.
Corbina. Hey, you were saying about the Allison tuna down there at Clarion, long sickles.
Yeah,
being resident fish.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
For sure.
Why would they leave? Why would they leave the trough? No, I didn't.
They don't leave. Yeah, they're there. There was a boat called the Liberator. He had a mast man. They had that place wired. Liberator only carried 200 ton, I think it was, or he had it wired. And when he would come in, we knew they were going 200 ton, you know, and he'd come in there and bang it out in 4 or 5 nights because we fished exclusively at night. We fished the Bluefin during the day, local banks, at night, local banks, but down below the banks and the islands and Hurricane Bank and stuff like that, it was always at night. Always at night. Yeah.
Why was that? Because of the clarity of the water?
It was the clarity of the water, no moon. When the moon goes down, you get up. And it was all sonar fish, and the guy in the crow's nest, there was no lights on the boat. We had a couple of flashlights that had red lenses. Super dark. Like you couldn't light a cigarette on the deck. If you wanted to smoke a cigarette, you had to go into the net room and grab a quick smoke. All our flashlights had a red lens on it that were painted or El Marco, the El Marco pin, not a Sharpie, an El Marco. That brings it back a little bit. And we would fish that stuff. The guy in the mast would shut his eyes, and he had a big, powerful spotlight, and he would make a sweep and then turn the light off and open his eyes. And if that light hit a school of fish, they would kick up the phosphorus and it would cause the fireball. And then we would be able to follow them with the sonar. It was back when sonar was a little different than the sonar is today.
So you'd hit them.
And we would set buoys with lights on it for the shallows, because our net, let's say your net was 60 fathoms deep, you would take a 15 fathom piece of hard lay rope, 1/2 inch rope, from the cork line to the chain. So your 60 fathoms became 15 fathoms. And so your net would be like this along the bottom, and it would keep it from getting snagged on the shallows if the current changed. Because if the current changed and your net got hung up on the bottom, not going anywhere for a while.
And those fish are going to come up into the shallows to feed, right? They're coming up over that 400-foot curve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you would always set within 18 to 20, 25 fathoms of water, remembering that you only had 15 fathom a net. And yeah, that's nothing,
90 feet.
It was cool to see that and to learn how to fish like that at night. And then during the daytime, if there were school fish on the outside, you would go out and you would make a set and you would untie what they call the suspender that went from the cork to the chain. You would untie that from the chain. And then when you rolled the water haul, no fish, you would roll the net back on the boat. As those suspenders came down, you would coil them up and you would put a little piece of string around them, and you'd have a coil of rope, so that when it came time to put them back on, you made another water haul, and then they would come down, you would untie them, and you had the chain marked where each one went.
Water haul. I like that term. Yeah.
Water haul. Oh, you got to clean the net.
Clean the net tonight.
Yeah.
Just like when you guys are watching Justin and Lisa and the gang out there fishing lobsters, and they're pulling up the hoop nets and all they got is water in them. That's a water haul, gang. That's what Tommy's talking about. And fathoms, gang, they're 6 feet in a fathom. I know there's a lot of words we're using here, and we're throwing out all these terminologies that we're going right over your head. 6 feet in a fathom. I can do my 6 timetables pretty damn good, because that's what we fished. Tommy and I and Michael, we don't know feet. If your photometer is on feet when we come on your boat, the first thing we do is, well, unless you're in the back bay with Tommy, because you're not in it. If you're in a fathom of water, you're too deep in the back bay. If you're in a fathom of water, it's too deep. But 6 feet is a fathom. That's what we grew up with. So we all know our 6 times tables. When they said math, you'll never use math. Well, I use my 6 times tables very well.
Yeah, if I'm in 6 feet of water in the South Bay,
deep.
I'm in the channel.
You're fishing way too deep.
I'm in some channel back there.
How did we end up this deep?
I got to get back into 2 feet, boys. Hold on.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about, gang. We're just talking fishing terminology. You're just listening to 3 guys talking about fishing, and I thank you all so much for listening to us. I mean, we've been babbling along for an hour and 45 minutes. I promised both these guys an hour, and we barely even scratched the surface. And as you can see, Tommy wants to talk, Michael wants to talk. None of us want to shut this down, because when we're done talking to you guys, we're going to go talk to other people about the same thing we were just talking about.
Go back to work.
Crazy. Yeah.
That's the really cool thing about what we get to do. Tommy gets to do, Michael gets to do, I get to do. We get to talk to you guys. We love this. We love fishing.
We are very blessed, gentlemen, with where we're at in life, how we got here, and the fact that we are allowed to share so much with people on platforms such as this, and the series and history of what you put together, Michael, is a complete blessing for all of us to understand how we got to where we're at today by the pioneers who set our course, put it in gear, and laid the prop wash for us to be where we're at today.
And as we pass the baton on to the next generation. You said it earlier, Tommy, that's what fishing is all about, is that kid catching this 15-pound yellowtail off a patty, his first yellowtail. He'll never forget that. It's a fish of a lifetime. And I don't think anybody's ever talked about taking kids fishing better than David has on a couple of his videos.
Yeah.
And he talks about what it means to take a kid fishing. And if you haven't watched one of those videos on Dave's, you should watch it, guys, because he explains in no uncertain terms what it means to take a kid fishing for a day or a half a day or a couple hours or whatever it is, and what the rules should be in your mind when you take a kid out for the first or second or third time and how you treat them. And that's the difference. That's to me, we did an interview with Flip Pallet back. Yeah.
Oh,
he's a god. And he said his biggest fear is that if we don't pass the baton along to our children, the next generation or generation after that, if you don't love something, if you don't respect something, if you don't engage with something, you don't care about it, and it's going to be lost. And fishing isn't something you can just go in the store and buy. You know, you can spend $1 million, but you're not going to buy the experience that you're going to get once you're using those tools. So I think what you said earlier and what Dave has said in his videos about taking a kid fishing, people ask me all the time, what can I do to make a difference? You know, the world's overwhelming me. There's just so many political things going on. The thing that you can do to make a difference is take a child fishing, period.
Yeah. You know, the world needs more tackle boxes and less X boxes.
Yeah, that's what Arnie says all the time. Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, take a kid fishing.
You guys helped me out tremendously, both of you, just talking about this right now, because Al Clowers and Justin and I, we just put together the kids fishing clinic, and Captain Al Clowers next weekend, he's going to do the first kids fishing clinic in San Diego Bay on his 6-pack charter boat. He's going to be taking kids fishing. It's $200 per kid. We're going to teach them how to fish. We're going to teach them how to tie their hooks, teach them how to rig their rods, teach them how to do all the cool things that we learned as kids, Tommy and Michael and I. And you get to go out with Captain Al Clowers and get into that back bay and go catch, maybe take some of the stuff you learn at the dock with Al and take your Now listen, we're not bringing adults on this. This is a kids fishing clinic, kids only, from the age of 8 to 16 years of age. Captain Al Clowers is a grandpa. He's a dad. He knows how to take care of your children. You're going to drop them off in the parking lot. He's going to grab them, all 6 of the kids. He's going to walk them down to his boat, and it's going to give them a chance to actually grow up.
How cool is that?
Start to be little citizens. And you know Captain Al Clowers, Tommy and Michael, you guys. He's the man. This is something different. And then we talked about this on the show yesterday, and we had such a huge outpouring that we have one of Justin Bottrell's regular clients that offered up the boat for the day. So Justin's going to put together a kids trip, all paid for for children that have never fished before. Out on Justin's boat. One of Justin's regulars was like, I want to get involved in this, just like you and Tommy were just saying. How can I get involved? He chartered the whole boat. He wants to see 4 children go out with Justin that have never fished before. And so we're going to pick 4 kids for that trip, all expenses paid. And then if you want to drop your children off with Captain Al, there's all the information right there. Captain Al's phone number is 619-800-3474. It's going to be, what we're doing here, gang, is like Michael was saying, we're changing this whole thing. We're doing it the right way. We want more tackle boxes, less X boxes. I love that. That's going to be on one of my shirts for sure.
Yeah.
Get it, right? So help us to change this thing, gang. Tommy Gomes, sorry I took 2 hours of your time. I apologize.
Are you kidding, man? We could do
all
this
day.
Once a month, man.
But Tommy Gomes, you're more busy than Michael and I, and that's saying a lot. What do you got going on? Just for fun, tell everybody what you got going on when you're done with this.
I'm leaving. I got to judge the Poke Festival, so my sodium level is going to go sky high tonight. Some of the best chefs in San Diego are making poke at the Valley High. We all know where that's at Shelter Island. Tomorrow, I'm shooting a couple of videos for a children's cooking class that I promote and have helped over the years. And then just working at the shop, making sandwiches and hanging out and cutting fish and, trying to make things work, man. We just got to keep going and buy more local fish, support the local fishermen, take a kid fishing, all that stuff. And if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot of them, but go fishing.
Yeah,
Tommy.
Michael.
It's just go fishing, man.
Thank you so much.
Michael, again, man, kudos. Hats off to what you did for the history of sport fishing. And I want to see the next round of this encyclopedia, because if anybody can put it together, it's you. And there's a lot out there.
We just scraped the surface.
Yeah, you're nowhere near icing that cake. You haven't even put it in the oven yet. It ain't done mixing, man. Get it.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for watching our show today. We'll be back with you tomorrow live at 12 o'clock. But in the morning, we'll have Justin Bottrell fishing live. He's going to be at Catalina again, probably trying to get into that sea bass he left biting last week. They were biting pretty good. Limit style fishing. And, it's pretty easy right now to catch limits when you're only allowed one. So I hear all these guys, it's limit style fishing. Yeah, because you can have one. It's like the vermilion fishing right now. It's limit style fishing because you can have two. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the show.